Hello and welcome to the Opening the Gates January 2026 UK property market update, where I'm going to be talking all things house prices, activity levels, mortgage approvals, transaction numbers, inflation, you name it, we've got it. A full-on comprehensive review, report, and breakdown of everything that's been happening in the market in the first month of 2026. So without further ado, let's share the screen and jump straight into it. Right, okay, so to start with, as usual, from left to right, we've got January versus December, so month on month analysis. Middle column is year on year, Jan 26 versus Jan 25. And on the right hand side, we've got January 2026 versus the 21 to 26 January average. So on the market, aka properties for sale, up 8.22% month on month. Not unsurprising because there's going to be less stock on the market as we come towards Christmas. And then in the new year, there's going to be a flurry of activity, typically and traditionally. And we found that with the post-budget and Boxing Day bounce. Year on year, a little bit up at 2%, which is good news in terms of supply levels. You'll probably notice me mention this a few times throughout this recording. But the end of 2024 and the start of 2025 was a particularly busy time as buyers and sellers tried to compete to get ahead of a stamp duty deadline at the end of March 2025. So there will be some skew whiffs there on year-to-year data because we had such a busy 2025. And then Jan 26 versus 21-26, stock levels up almost 19%. Goes to show, I keep saying this all the time, stock levels are at about a dozen-year high. Lots more competition for sellers, meaning they need to price realistic, have a great agent who's going to market the property phenomenally. But great news there is that more property available means more buyers. Therefore, there's going to be more transactions taking place as long as properties are priced correctly. Again, we'll come on to it in some more detail as we go through. New listings up 79.5% month on month, which is great news. It shows that sellers are buoyed by the kind of uh, much of a nothingness really of the budget. So they're coming back to the market, which is great news. New listings year on year up 3.61%. So a little bit higher than a year ago, which is positive, and then 15.5% up on a 21-26 average. So again, there's confidence from sellers making moves, they're entering the market, and that is fantastic news for the year ahead because typically most sellers are coming to market because they want to buy somewhere. So that's going to again compound in terms of transaction numbers. Sales agreed up almost 50% on December. Again, not unsurprising. Down 6.5% year on year. As I said, not unsurprising because of the crazy start we had to 2025, but they're actually 2% up on a 21 to 26 year average. So it shows that actually the market's in a really good state. Sales agreed numbers are really positive. So again, priced correctly, they are selling. There's definitely buyers out there. Price changes are up just over 73% month on month. Again, there's going to be a skew with on month to month data because obviously December is Christmas. It's a slower time in the year. January is normally very, very busy. We also had the kind of enhanced Christmas period because of the let's just wait now the budget has happened until January to actually make a move. Year on year price changes are steady, so maybe shows that properties are being more realistically priced. Or maybe the other side of it is that sellers are not changing their price yet. Now prices are still up 33.5% on the 21-26 January average. So it shows that price reductions are still an issue in the market. Fall through numbers down. Start again. Up, should I say, 47.5% month on month. Again, not surprising because there would have been a lot more sales in January versus December. But great news is year on year, they're down 12%. Now, part of that will be fewer sales because of the buoyant start to 2025. But actually, as a percentage of sales, I think it's gone from about a 27% fall through rate a year ago to about 25% now. So it does show that it's improving ever so slightly, which is great to see. And then fall through levels are stable on the 21-26 average. So it shows that buyers and sellers do seem to be as committed as ever to moving home, which is great news to see. In terms of relisting numbers, so properties re-entering the market, down month on month slightly, year on year, a whopping 62% down, and then almost 51% down on a 21 to 26 year average. Really, really interesting data there on that. There definitely will be properties relisting. just keep chasing those withdrawn properties from recent years. But I think because there's been less properties withdrawn from the market, that has therefore meant less properties relisting. But it's definitely going to be a trend there of more properties re-entering the market. So if you need help with strategy on how to target withdrawn properties, you know where to find me. Right, so new listing average asking price. So started last year at 414,000, started this year at 421, and ended last year at 415 and a half. So average asking price of new listings month for month up 1.3%, and then annually up 1.7%. Now what's interesting is if I just jump down to sales agreed, started last year at 352 and a half. Started this year at 350 and then ended last year at 351 and a half. So sales agreed are actually down 0.41% month on month and 0.75% year on year, which says to me that those who are selling are the ones who are being more realistic on their pricing. As we always know, there is also going to be a higher propensity to move for lower end properties, particularly with stamp duty barriers, affordability constraints, and things like that as well. Maybe less buyers at the higher end with the whole mansion tax issue from the budget as well. But it just highlights sellers are perhaps being a little bit too optimistic in their asking prices, whereas those sellers who are selling are the ones being more realistic. So on to average pounds per square foot on new listings. It's gone from 377 a year ago up to 411 where we are now. Ended last year at 403. So pounds per square foot up 1.99% month on month, and then year on year a whopping 9%. And then the sales agreed average pounds per square foot has gone from 340 to 352, having ended last year at 346. So down 1.73% month on month, up 3.53% year on year. So it does show again the pounds per square foot from a sales perspective is a lot less than what the new listings are. Again, highlighting those who are selling are the ones who are being more realistic on their pricing. They've probably gone with a great agent at a realistic price and have fantastic marketing. Typically, that's half of the market, and then the other half are going for the cheaper agent, want too much money, and their marketing is not very good. Right, on to mortgage approvals. You'll notice I keep looking over at my other screen. I've now got three screens, by the way, rather than two. Proper tech data geek that I am these days. Mortgage approvals. Mortgage approvals. Let's just go to my other screen. There we are. So mortgage approvals for house purchases fell 5.43% month on month in December. That was their lowest point since April, but that reflects a traditional slowdown that usually follows a stamp duty deadline. Approvals were also down 4.96% on a 12-month average. So whilst December typically does see a pre-Christmas dip in activity, approvals were 8.27% lower year on year, but this was to be expected because we had a very busy end to 2024, as already said, with the stamp duty deadline, as buyers rushed to beat it. However, they are still 2.09% below the December 10-year average, suggesting perhaps there might just be more than some seasonal factors at play. The uncertain end to 2025, with all the budget speculation we had, has weighed on confidence levels, and it appears to have softened buyer demand a little bit heading into the new year. So that is the mortgage approval data. If I just look at my other screen again, so December 25 was 61,000 mortgage approvals. The 12-month average was 64,000. And then the December 10-year was 62,000. So it's not a million miles off. I think that the mortgage approval levels have been pretty steady, being in the 60,000s for quite a considerable time now is really good going. About two-thirds, three-quarters of the market is made up by mortgages. The others are going to be cash or cash from sales, so 25% to a third, highlighting about 100,000 transactions a month, which would take us to 1.2 million transactions a year, which I will come on to now. So, transaction numbers. Again, if I go to my other screen. So we've got a full year's worth of transaction data now. So despite the widespread perceptions of a challenging year for the UK property market, transaction volumes proved really resilient in 2025. The data I've looked at, and they probably all haven't come through yet, I've got an estimated 1.2 million, so 1,205,000 property sales completed. That was up just over 9% on 2024. So really, really good going there. Activity was obviously heavily front loaded with about 381,000 transactions in Q1 as buyers rushed to complete ahead the stamp duty deadline at the start of April. Volumes then fell back as they typically do in the sort of quarter following a stamp duty deadline to just over 239 and a half before recovering in the second half of the year. So Q3 saw 285,000 transactions and an estimated 299,000 transactions in Q4. Not a bad result considering all the budget uncertainty. Um, Now, in terms of December as well, it did prove to be actually a really strong end to the year for transactions. Completions were up 4.73% year on year, 0.75% ahead of the December 10-year average, and it actually was the third busiest month of 2025, only behind February and March, as you can see on my screen. So there's a whopping 170 something thousand transactions in March as people tried to beat the deadline. So completions increased for 4 consecutive months towards the end of the year, from September through to December, confirming that market activity strengthened throughout quarter four despite budget uncertainty earlier in the autumn. Just one last bit on the December transactions. I must just point out that literally month on month they increased by like 100. So yeah, but still in line with 12-month average, and slightly above the December 10-year average as well. So about 100,000 transactions. As I said, if we keep doing 100,000 transactions, that's 1.2 million transactions a year, which is about a 4 to 5% turnover rate of a market, which is a very healthy market. That's been the UK average for completions for the past few decades. Probably best part of 50 years, I think, off the top of my head. So really good going there. Right. So now we're on to inflation. So inflation ended the year at 3.4%. So it did go up. It had dropped um, a couple of months in a row. So that is now the highest it's been since September. But I've got a couple of bits that I have prepared. Um, so it increased more than was forecast. The forecast had said 3.2%. And I was going to say something else on it, but I'll leave that till later on, actually. So despite the increase to inflation, um, the Bank of England expected it to end the year at 3.5%, and it is expected to slow very soon. And we're expecting to get to the bank's 2% target by April or May. Fair way to go. But again, it's pretty damn good going considering if I just look at my other screen, we were at double-digit inflation this time 3 years ago. So yeah, a good result there. And as inflation steadies, we should see a little bit of a drop in interest rates as well, which will obviously be positive news for mortgages, and that will bring more activities to the market and a little bit of modest house price growth. So was there anything else I needed to add on inflation? No, I don't think there was. Right, house price indexes. There's one missing this month, which is the eServe house price index. Hasn't been released. I'm not sure why. But we have got Rightmove with a monthly increase. I'll come on to it in a little bit more detail in a second. I think this was the highest January increase on Rightmove's records for 25 years, and their biggest monthly increase since something like June 2015. Now they've brought them, this means that the annual change is now back in the positive territory at 0.5%. I think personally, and this isn't to be negative because I think anyone who watches these updates knows I am optimistically realistic, I think is the language to use. That is a significant rise in average asking prices. Not really sure where that has come from. Is it more higher end properties coming to market? Is it estate agents getting a little bit too carried away at the start of the year? Is it sellers being a little bit greedy because of cost of moving? Who knows? But I think we will probably find it's maybe going to mean that maybe less property selling. They're going to take longer to sell. There's probably going to be more price reductions because of that. So that's part of it. Zoopla has remained steady month on month at 270, 1.2% up annually. Land Registry, so this is kind of uh, the single truth in the sense of it's signed on a dotted line. People have handed over their keys. This is mortgage. This is cash. It's the best sample you're going to get. But that's November completed data, so it's going to be several months out of date. Even still, 0.3% up monthly and 2.5% annual increase. Nationwide and Halifax, so from the lender's perspectives, so Nationwide just shy of 271, a 0.3% monthly increase and 1% annually. The Halifax one, when I do these updates, it's always a little bit behind on Halifax because the Halifax house price index for January doesn't come out for another few days. The nationwide one has just come out. But Halifax is just shy of 298. It's 0.6% down month on month and up 0.3% annually. And then home.co.uk just shy of 358, and that is on asking prices, down 0.1% month on month. Then annually up 0.5%. So across the board, 306 is the average price, up 0.45% month on month, and then 1% annually. I think if you look back at some of the things I would have said at the start of 2025, I would have said we will probably get on a bad year about 1 million transactions, a good year 1.2. I think I was probably saying about 1.1, and I was reporting very modest house price growth. I thought we'd have very low single digit house price growth, which is what it's looking like it's going to be. So yeah, a positive market to be in, very stable at the moment, considering all the different things we've got going on in my National Market Update LinkedIn newsletter that I do. I said about Donald Trump with um, Greenland, Iran, Venezuela. We then had Andy Burnham trying to shaft Keir Starmer into becoming Prime Minister at some point. So we've got political, economical things going on. But as we've known from recent years, the UK property market has been very resilient. Now, you might notice there's a few less tabs open on my screen compared to usual updates. I'm trying to make these a little bit quicker or have less tabs open and go into more detail on the actual reports I think add the most value. So let's jump into those now. So, right move. Let's go to right move. So some of the bits I'm about to share won't be necessarily in the house price index. Let's just get rid of this up here. You might know some top right hand corner, my right move scraping tool. If you would like my most up-to-date document of the Google Chrome extensions to be using on the portals, send me a DM and I will happily share that with you. So Rightmove reported its busiest ever Boxing Day for visits to its website, with visits almost doubling 93% between the quietest day of the year on Christmas Day and Boxing Day. Just a little caveat there. Whenever they say about this Boxing Day bounce, they're always comparing it to the quietest day of the year. So Boxing Day is not the busiest day of the year. It just so happens they're comparing it to a quieter time. But I'm not going to get into that political debate over Boxing Day right now. So it's a bigger Boxing Day bounce than last year when the increase was 87%. Early snapshot of activity from Rightmove showed that in the 2 weeks post-Christmas, buyer demand rose 57% compared to the 2 weeks before Christmas. As I said, quieter time that they're comparing it against, whilst the number of new listed homes jumped by 81%. Number of people sending inquiries to estate agents to go and view homes for sale increased by 67% in the 5 days after Christmas compared with the 5 days before. Meanwhile, the number of new properties being listed for sale on Rightmove more than doubled at 143% in the 5 days after Christmas compared with the 5 days before Christmas. So Rightmove did predict a bigger than usual Boxing Day bounce as those who pause due to budget uncertainty were expected to join the post-Christmas boost in home moving activity, and this appears to have been the case to some extent. Average asking prices, as I've said earlier, rose by a whopping 2.8% in January to 368,000, the largest ever increase for the month of January in Rightmove's 25-year history, and the largest of any month since June 2015. After underperforming against historical averages in 8 of the 12 months during 2025, particularly at the end of the year, national average prices are now 0.5% higher than this time last year, recovering from the minus 0.6% recorded in December, bringing average asking prices close to where they were in August 2025, as market sentiment has rebounded following the budget uncertainty. Get my words out, Simon. So that all sounds positive as a Boxing Day bounce in inverted commas. However, Rightmove have gone on to report since that buyer demand is currently 9% lower than stamp duty fueled start to 2025, which I touched on earlier, though it is in line with 2024 levels. Trouble here again when we compare it. When we're comparing demand supply levels to different years, but oh yeah, but that year was a bit different because of elections, because of COVID, because of stamp duty holidays. There's always something to consider in that, which is why I do these reviews to give a comprehensive report on what's actually going on. Anyway, crucially, the number of available homes for sale remains at its highest level for this time of year since 2014. A third of these homes that have been on the market have seen at least one price reduction, going again back to my earlier point, underlining the importance of realistic pricing. And then Colleen Babcock, who is property expert at Rightmove, seen Colleen speak a few times, does some very good data. I think she's speaking at the Women in Estate Agency, not a conference. So if you don't have your ticket, I'd 100% recommend getting it. So she has said it's early days, but there are encouraging signs that more home movers are now planning a 2026 move as we head towards the important spring buying and selling season. Many buyers have seen their affordability improve, with average wage rises outstripping average property prices. Now, what I should say on this is in terms of the spring season, for those of you who've not had any of this content from me, Rightmove have tracked this data back to 2012, millions of different listings. Statistically speaking, February and March are the best months of the year to list a home if you want to sell it, closely followed by January and April. And in that first few months of the year, statistically speaking, again, actually the best months of the year to list a property to give you the best chance of selling it in the quickest time. So I'd 100% be putting marketing out there now saying beat the spring rush. Demand is out there. Buyers are wanting to buy, put your property on the market before all the other stock floods the market. So that would be my advice there. So that's kind of everything from Rightmove. In terms of Zoopla, where are we? So the latest data from Zoopla is showing that activity has rebounded in the first 2 weeks of the year. The most early January listing since 2018. So similar to Rightmove in what they've said. And 33% of these properties were previously listed in 2025. So I did say earlier about my point around do target those properties that have tried to sell before, whether they're ones who are ones you already know in your database or ones that have been on with someone else, and you can use prospecting software to go target them. Or if you're cost conscious and want to try and target withdrawn properties for free that have been on with someone else, please do contact me and I will happily share with you some ideas, strategy, and content around targeting withdrawn properties. Those properties that have been relisted in January that have been on before, perhaps relisting because of the Q4 slowdown and wanting to come back to market when there's a bit more certainty. So it shows that that hesitancy was short-lived. More homes for sale means more buyers looking to secure a sale and to move home in 2026, as I've already said. And it explains why the Zoopla data tracking a strong rebound in buyer demand post-Christmas is in line with previous years and tracking in line with the early weeks of 2024. As kind of Rightmove have said as well, the rebound in demand is tracking 10% behind the very, very strong start to 2025 because of stamp duty deadlines. But it's mirroring the start of 2024 and it's still over 20% ahead of the start of 2023 and the pre-pandemic years of 2017 to 2019. What I think on that as well, if we just quickly, this is what I want to look at. So there you go. Buy demand down a little bit, new supply down a little bit. I think as the months go on, we then are not comparing ourselves to the stamp duty race, you'll see these figures get much better on that. Right, okay. Last couple of bits. So nationwide, slight rise in annual house price growth at 1%, 0.3% up month on month. You can see what they're saying in terms of UK first-time buyer mortgage payments as a percentage of take-home pay. Things are improving compared to where they were a few years ago when interest rates rocketed. They're not a million miles away from the long-run average. There's lots of other content on this that I put into my newsletter. And then first-time buyers as a percentage of house purchase activity. As the affordability improves, they will continue to come back to market, and they're making up over half of all buyers, which is crazy. First-time buyers are so important to fluidity, if that's even a word, in the property market. So it's great to see them there. There's plenty more products out there as well for higher loan to value. Although saying that, a lot of first-time buyers have got very healthy deposits around the 20-25% mark, having benefited from the bank of mum and dad and grandparents as well. So improved affordability is supporting activity, and that will continue to be the case throughout 2026 as wages have risen and interest rates have come down. It doesn't look like we're going to see, though, a crazy change in interest rates a lot lower, which is then going to artificially inflate house prices. We've seen what that's done before. So I think we're just in a pretty steady position at the moment. Again, obviously, my caveat would be who knows what black swan event could happen, particularly of how close Donald Trump is to a big red button. But positive news there from Nationwide. And if we look here as well, UK house price earning ratios has just dipped below the 25-year average as well, which is really positive to see. That again is going to bring more home movers to the market. Nationwide did do an affordability report, which I think I've just basically touched on as well. As you can see, let's just zoom in. First time buyer house price earning ratio now dipped below the 20-year average. So yeah, positive news there. You'll notice here the fourth bullet point, 10% deposit on a typical UK first time buyer property is around 230 grand. That would take nearly 6 years to save. But again, they are benefiting from Bank of Mum and Dad and grandparents. Appreciate not everyone has that luxury, but there are plenty of homeowners who are in that baby boomer generation who are now passing on that wealth from investing in property many decades ago. So that will continue to be the case from the data that I'm looking at. Right, where are we? Halifax. So I'll quickly review this. Like I said, the January house price index won't come out for a few days, but Halifax's latest reporting, so the end of 2025, house prices just shy of £298,000, a monthly drop of 0.6%, quarterly rise of 0.2%, and an annual increase of 0.3%. So Amanda Bryden at Halifax has said the average house price now is the lowest it's been since June 2025. Whilst it might feel a little bit subdued, closing the housing market in 2025, overall activity levels were resilient over last year and broadly in line with the pre-pandemic average. I think broadly in line with the pre-pandemic average, and the word resilient really does sum up the property market at the moment. If you think of those few years before the pandemic, where we're in a pretty good market, and considering the whole hoo-ha around Brexit as well, it just shows how amazingly well the market has performed. So various forces are poised to somewhat buoy the market as we head into 2026. So whilst December's monthly fall in prices was likely related to uncertainty in the latter part of the year, that should now be starting to unwind. Further, mortgage rates are already reducing following late base rate cut in December, and there's an increased number of lending options available for those borrowing at higher loan to value, which I touched on a couple of minutes ago. Although at the time of recording, I think we are 48 hours out from the Bank of England's first meeting of the year. Very confident they will stick at 3.75%. A lot of the predictions are that we might see a couple of cuts this year to 3.25%, but I think there'll be a lot more of a gap in terms of gradual easing in the Bank of England base rate. Since they started first cutting rates from 5.25% in August 24, off the top of my head, it had been every other meeting, so once a quarter, roughly speaking. We're maybe going to see that extended a little bit. Swap rates have risen up in recent days, last couple of weeks, and some lenders have started to increase their rates as well, which, whilst they are lower than they have been months, 1 year, 2 year, 3 years ago, it just shows that anyone waiting for interest rates to drop, we're going to see averages around the four. There might be some lower ones with a three in front of it, depending on loan to value. So obviously how much deposit someone's putting down. And the typical interest rate is usually about 0.8% higher than the Bank of England base rate. So if we do get to a 3.25% as a base rate at some point this year, we're still probably going to be looking at interest rates with a four in front of it. Now, once you look at where rates might be at the end of this year and where house prices might be, someone might save a few quid a month by waiting. So as I always say, and this isn't unique or original to me, um, don't wait to buy property and wait. And don't try and time the market. It's not about timing it, it's about time in it. Anyway, last couple of points. So affordability pressures will persist, as I said, with interest rates kind of plateauing or stabilizing. House price to income ratio was at its lowest in over a decade in December. So that's a positive note for those looking to purchase their first home. And on this basis, and recognizing the headwinds that may affect buying power, such as the slowing of inflation from a wage perspective and flattening employment rates, Halifax expect a modest rise in house prices during the year of between 1 and 3%. That's what most commentators seem to be predicting is, again, low single digit house price growth. Just something in terms of headwind there. I think that some might be thinking, the way the lenders have gone, buyers have got 20% increase in buying power. I've had some agents say because of this news, sellers are wanting more money because they think buyers can buy more. You've got to remember, if we're comparing to a few years ago, and if that buyer's upsizing and borrowing an extra couple hundred grand, it 100% is going to be more expensive for them, which is why property is taking a lot longer to sell if it does actually sell. So I would say that we don't have a tailwind behind us. What I'd say we have got is a headwind that has been removed. So with golf analogy, you're no longer going into a green wind against, nor have you got wind with you. It's actually becoming pretty flat. So again, price correctly, market correctly, with the right agent, you've got the best chance of selling. So that was my January 2026 UK property market update. Slightly different this week because I had plenty of notes on my left-hand side to be reading over. I hope that's all been beneficial. If you've got any questions regarding the update, feel free to drop a comment, send me a message. And if you've got anything that you want including for future updates, please do give me a shout. And if there's any strategies you want to discuss on how to open against more listings in 2026 and dominate your market, you know where I am. I will be back in early March to discuss the February UK property market, and I will see you then.